Welcome to the deep dive. Just take a moment to look around you, metaphorically speaking. The world we inhabit right now feels intensely complex, doesn't it?
It really does. Overwhelmingly so sometimes.
We're grappling with these undeniable realities, things like climate change, the ethical dilemmas spinning around artificial intelligence, and, societies that just seem increasingly polarized.
Yeah, finding common ground seems harder than ever.
It really does. And it's enough to make you pause and wonder, are our current ways of thinking, the very cognitive tools we've relied on for centuries, are they actually sufficient to navigate these kinds of unprecedented challenges?
That's the critical question, isn't it?
Exactly. And some groundbreaking new research suggests we might need to evolve our approach, that maybe a new form of thinking, maybe a higher view for our minds is actually required.
Mm-hmm.
And that's precisely what we're going to explore today. Our subject for this deep dive is a concept called seventh level thinking. It's drawn from a really insightful paper titled Seventh Level Thinking Plus, written by Philip Lillian.
A fascinating source.
It really is. And our mission here is to distill the most important nuggets of knowledge from this source. Offer you a shortcut to being not just informed, but genuinely well-informed on this potentially transformative cognitive model. We're going to help you unpack what it means to maybe transcend conventional thought.
And our mission is exactly that, to unpack how this transcendent form of cognition actually operates. It's a remarkable model because it synthesizes logic, intuition, ethical responsibility, and interestingly, even spiritual insight into this unified framework.
So it brings it all together.
It really does. And what's particularly fascinating is how it doesn't just throw out existing models of cognitive development.
Yeah.
Instead, it actually builds upon them.
Yeah.
And it showcases these clear characteristics like heightened meta-awareness, a deep integration of really diverse perspectives, and this powerful capacity to catalyze truly transformative innovation.
Right.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, this level of thinking is presented as absolutely essential for navigating the complex global challenges we face today.
Yeah.
And ultimately, for guiding both our personal evolution and, frankly, our planetary evolution.
So it's more than just theory.
Much more. It's framed as a vital roadmap for humanity's future, really.
And here's the exciting promise we have for you today. By the time we wrap up this deep dive, you will have a clear, actionable understanding of what this new cognitive operating system, as the paper calls it, really entails.
Mm-hmm.
And more than that, you'll gain tools and insights that could potentially elevate your own way of thinking, maybe moving you beyond conventional problem-solving approaches to embrace a truly holistic and transformative framework.
That's the goal.
We're going to help you see the world and maybe even your own mind in a profoundly new way. So let's begin.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we leap straight into the seventh level, which, sounds like quite a jump in cognitive evolution.
It is.
We really need to understand the foundational landscape it builds upon. You can think of it like a ladder, maybe, or perhaps even more accurately, like a spiral, showing how our minds develop and evolve over time.
Yeah, spiral is a good image. It's progressive.
It's a progressive journey, right? With each step building on the last.
Precisely. The concept of cognitive growth, it's long been understood as progressing through a series of distinct stages. And this journey typically moves us from, very concrete engagement with the world to highly abstract thought.
Right.
And from purely reactive responses to these deeply reflective states of mind. The paper we're exploring outlines a really clear progression through these levels. Each level builds upon and, crucially, transcends the last one.
So it gives us that foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It provides a foundational understanding before we try and ascend to these higher forms of cognition.
So let's start right at the very beginning of this cognitive journey. What does that look like, in our everyday experience?
Okay, so at the very base of this ladder, this spiral, we find level 1, reactive thinking. This is essentially our immediate, almost knee-jerk response to stimuli.
Okay, pure reaction.
Pure reaction. It's instinctual, often highly emotional, and operates almost entirely without conscious reflection. Its primary mode is this impulse response patterning. We see a stimulus, we react, like a simple command and response loop, or maybe an uninhibited emotional outburst.
Like a kid screaming or road rage.
Exactly. Think of a child's immediate scream when they want something, or that surge of road rage that makes someone act without thinking. The key insight here is the absolute lack of space between stimulus and reaction. There's no reflection, no real consideration of long-term consequences.
We're just immediate.
It's just immediate. The core limitation here is a profound lack of time depth or understanding cause-effect beyond that immediate moment. And the shadow expression of this level, can be quite intense. It can manifest as outright violence or even the unthinking momentum of mob behavior.
Scary stuff.
Yeah. The transition trigger, what typically pushes an individual beyond this level, is encountering some clear structure or experiencing consistent consequences for their actions. Learning that actions have repercussions.
Okay.
The archetype representing this foundational level is the animal child, and its symbol is, quite aptly, a coiled serpent, embodying that sort of primal, undirected energy.
Okay, so from that primal energy, where do we go next?
Moving up, we encounter level 2, concrete thinking. Now, at this stage, our cognition begins to engage directly with rules, specific facts, and tangible objects.
So things we can touch and see and rules we can follow.
Exactly. The language used is very literal, very rule-based, full of definitive shoulds and musts. We categorize, we sort, we follow instructions. Think of a young student diligently following a recipe step by step without really understanding the chemistry behind it.
Or just following procedure because that's the rule.
Precisely. That's how it's always been done. But its primary limitation is its inherent rigidity. This level really struggles to grasp abstraction or symbolism or anything that involves paradox. It sees things in black and white, right and wrong, no nuance.
Very fixed.
Very fixed. Shadow expressions here include a tendency towards rigid dogma or just blind conformity, where adhering to the rules becomes more important than understanding their underlying purpose or the context.
Okay, I can see that.
The transition to the next level is often triggered by cognitive dissonance. When the concrete rules just don't make sense anymore in a new situation, or by the necessity of solving problems that require a more abstract approach, things that aren't immediately tangible.
Right, when the rules break down.
Yes, exactly. The archetype here is the soldier lawkeeper, symbolized by a solid, unyielding square stone block representing those fixed boundaries and structure.
Okay, stone block. Then what? We start thinking more flexibly.
Yes, then we ascend to level 3, abstract thinking. This is where we truly begin to engage with ideas, symbols, and hypotheticals. We gain the capacity to form theories, test hypotheses, and use those conditional if-then statements.
Ah, the world of ideas, philosophy, science.
Exactly. It's the realm of conceptual thought, where you can ponder philosophical questions, design complex systems on paper, or theorize about potential futures. But, and there's always a but.
Always a limitation.
Right. The blind spot at this level is a potential disconnection from embodiment, from our emotions, or from systemic feedback. It can become highly intellectualized, sort of disembodied, losing touch with the practical or the felt experience.
Add the clouds, maybe?
A bit like that, yeah.
Sure.
Its shadow, the downside, can manifest as intellectual arrogance, thinking, I've got it all figured out, purely from an abstract standpoint, detached from reality, or even engaging in ideological warfare, where ideas are battled without real-world grounding or human compassion.
Right, ideas become weapons.
Mm-hmm. The trigger for transition from this level is often the realization of the inherent complexity and contradictions within pure logic itself, or maybe a felt need to ground that abstraction in something more tangible, more real-world applicable. The archetype for this level is the philosopher-architect, and its symbol is a compass laid over a blank scroll, signifying that mapping of ideas and theoretical constructs.
So we've moved from instinct to rigid rules and now to pure ideas. What happens when those abstract ideas collide with the messy reality of interconnectedness? That seems like the next logical step.
That leads us directly to level 4, systemic thinking. At this point, we start to understand causal relationships, we recognize feedback loops, and we grasp layered complexity.
Seeing the bigger picture, the network.
Exactly. This mode is inherently structural and strategic. Our language shifts to terms like patterns, outcomes, and conditional design logic. We see the interconnectedness of things, how one action ripples through an entire system. For example, understanding how a change in interest rates affects global markets, or how an ecological shift impacts an entire food web.
So much more complex understanding.
Much more. However, even at this level, there's a limitation. It can over-focus on the systems themselves, sometimes missing the subjective human experience or the nuances of intuition within that system.
Ah, so you see the machine but maybe miss the people?
Precisely. The shadow expressions can be over-analysis, that paralysis by complexity, where you see so many interconnected variables that you just can't decide where to act, or a form of technocracy and bureaucracy that lacks soul or human connection, prioritizing system efficiency over human well-being.
Yeah, I think many of us can relate to that feeling of paralysis by complexity, especially looking at global issues. It's easy to get stuck there, trying to map out every single variable.
Absolutely. The transition here is often sparked by encountering paradoxes that are just too chaotic or intricate to be modeled using purely logical, systemic frameworks, where the system itself seems to defy its own logic.
When the map doesn't match the territory anymore.
Exactly. The archetype is the engineer strategist,
Yeah.
and its symbol is interlocking cog, representing those interconnected mechanisms.
Okay, interlocking cogs. So what's the next step? When you realize your mental models themselves, your way of seeing the system, might be the issue.
Well, that moves us into a more introspective domain. We find level 5, metacognitive thinking. This is a fascinating level where we begin to think about our own thinking.
Thinking about thinking.
Yes, we start observing and reflecting on our mental models in real time, almost like having a separate observer within our own mind. You might hear someone at this level say things like, I notice that I tend to think this way, or I'm aware of the assumptions I'm making right now.
So becoming aware of your own internal software, so to speak.
That's a great analogy. It's like stepping back and watching your own thought processes unfold, understanding your biases, your assumptions, how you construct your reality. The limitation, however, can be becoming overly recursive or anxious.
Getting stuck in your own head.
Right. Leading to analysis paralysis, where you're so busy observing your thoughts you struggle to act, or you become self-obsessed without outward application. The trigger for this transition is often just a deep fatigue from endless analysis, or a yearning for greater coherence and simplicity, or encountering the inherent limits of their current worldview, realizing that even thinking about thinking isn't enough.
You need something more integrated.
Precisely. The archetype is the mirror-bearer inner watcher, symbolized by an eye within a loop, or maybe a Mobius strip, reflecting that self-observation.
Okay, the inner watcher. And after observing, what's the next natural progression? Is it about connecting things together?
Exactly. Finally, just before we hit the 7th level, we reach level 6, integrative thinking. This level is all about synthesizing diverse disciplines, modalities, and ideas. The goal here is seeking coherence and unity across traditional boundaries.
Breaking down silos.
Absolutely. Language at this level often uses both-and statements, emphasizing bridges, holism, and cross-disciplinary understanding. Think of someone who seamlessly combines insights from neuroscience with psychology or ancient spiritual practices with modern quantum physics, making connections others don't see.
That sounds incredibly powerful.
It is. It can lead to remarkable breakthroughs. But its blind spot is the transcendent itself. It can still operate within hidden assumptions, or even engage in what's sometimes called spiritual bypassing, where genuine, deep spiritual insight is overlooked for a more intellectualized synthesis, without fully embodying the wisdom.
So it integrates, but maybe misses the deepest layer.
Potentially, yes. The ultimate trigger for the final profound leap to the next level is encountering phenomena or experiences that simply cannot be reconciled, even through the most sophisticated synthesis. This is the birth of the truly unresolvable paradox, which ignites the transcendent impulse, a realization that some truths can only be held by stepping outside the current framework entirely.
Wow, when integration isn't enough.
Right. The archetype for this level is the weaver diplomatorical, symbolized by an interwoven braid, representing the synthesis of many threads into a unified fabric.
So you can really see how each level not only builds upon the last, but also inherently carries its own limitations or blind spots, which kind of push us to the next stage. What really stands out in this progression for me is that becoming smarter isn't just about accumulating more facts or information.
Not at all.
It's a fundamental shift in how you process and engage with reality itself. It's an evolution in perspective, this whole journey our minds take.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
It's a qualitative shift, not just quantitative.
Okay, we've laid the groundwork, we've climbed the ladder, understanding how we progress from raw impulse all the way to complex integration. Now, the paper suggests, after all that climbing, there's a truly profound shift waiting at the top of this cognitive peak, the 7th level. Here's where it gets really compelling. Having moved through reactive, concrete, abstract, systemic, metacognitive, and finally integrative thinking, the paper introduces this truly groundbreaking concept of the 7th level, transcendent thinking.
And transcendent thinking represents a profound, almost revolutionary shift in cognition. It's not merely about refining thought within a particular framework or paradigm,
Right.
but rather it's about going beyond those frameworks themselves. What's fascinating here is that it's described as this multidimensional state of cognition that consciously integrates logic, emotion, intuition, ethical responsibility, and even spiritual alignment into a unified field of understanding.
Wow, unified field. So it's truly holistic.
Truly holistic, it moves beyond the sum of its parts.
So it's definitely not abandoning reason or logical thought then. It's not about becoming illogical, but rather weaving reason into something far richer and more encompassing. It's not about abandoning structure, but seeing past its limits.
Exactly. It's an integration, not an abandonment. Transcendent thinking reflects a remarkable capacity to stand outside of rigid, conventional paradigms. It allows an individual to see across diverse disciplines, different cultures, and even deeply held belief systems, synthesizing them into something genuinely new and innovative.
Visionary thinking.
It is visionary thinking, but critically, it's always grounded in a deep sense of ethical responsibility. At this level, the individual doesn't just see themselves as an isolated entity. They recognize themselves as an interconnected node within a much larger field of meaning, interwoven with society, with history, with nature, and even with the cosmos itself.
Okay.
In this profound state, thought truly becomes an act of stewardship, where every idea carries with it a responsibility for its impact on the whole.
That's a powerful phrase. Thought becomes an act of stewardship. It hints at such a deep sense of responsibility. Tell us more about the core dimensions of this seventh level thinking. What are its defining characteristics that make it so transformative?
Okay, the paper meticulously details 4 key dimensions that really define this transcendent cognitive state.
Let's hear them.
First, we have holistic integration. Now, while an integrative thinker at level 6 synthesizes ideas across different disciplines.
Right, like science and art.
Exactly. A transcendent thinker at level 7 takes this a massive step further. They synthesize across ontological categories.
Ontological categories. Okay, break that down.
Yeah, it sounds like a mouthful, but it simply means the fundamental ways we understand being and reality itself.
Right.
So this means unifying objective knowledge, what we can prove through science, with subjective insight, personal experience, inner knowing, and collective wisdom, which encompasses cultural and historical understanding.
So head, heart, and maybe history all together.
That's a good way to think about it. Imagine if a quantum physicist, a spiritual elder, and a renowned artist could articulate the same profound truth from their wildly different lenses, recognizing it as one underlying reality. That's the kind of meta-integration we're talking about. Fragmentation dissolves, and a deep coherence emerges from seemingly disparate domains.
Wow, like finding the pattern that connects everything.
Exactly. Examples given include unifying quantum physics and consciousness research, or integrating indigenous wisdom with ecological science, or harmonizing art, mathematics, and spiritual understanding into a living, interconnected system, seeing through the fragmentation.
Okay, that's dimension 1. What's next?
The second dimension is ethical and planetary awareness. At this level, thinking is profoundly directed not just at achieving certain results, but at understanding the deepest meaning and long-term impact of those results. There's an intense focus on the long-term future of Earth and humanity.
Thinking beyond just ourselves, beyond just now.
Way beyond. This includes a deep consideration for the rights of future generations and even non-human life, extending our ethical circle far beyond the immediate. This level of awareness is inherently aligned with concepts like stewardship, genuine sustainability, and a pervasive sense of sacred obligation to life itself.
A guardian of coherence, as you said before.
Precisely. Acting not merely for utility or short-term gain, but for meaningful integrity across vast stretches of space and time, recognizing the ripple effect of every decision.
Powerful. Okay, dimension 3.
Third, there's intuition and metacognition. Here, intuition is explicitly acknowledged as a higher-order faculty, not opposed to reason, but profoundly complementary to it.
So intuition gets a seat at the table.
A very important seat. Key features include a deep trust in insights that arise without needing linear, step-by-step reasoning, almost like a sudden download of understanding or a flash of insight that connects dots you didn't even know existed.
Those aha moments.
Exactly. There's also a heightened capacity to recognize patterns even before they are fully formed or consciously articulated. And perhaps most uniquely, there's the ability to reflect on one's own thinking while it is occurring true metacognition in real time.
Watching yourself think as you think.
Yeah, it enables an incredibly fluid and dynamic mental stance, where awareness itself becomes the thinker, rather than being merely contained by thought. It's like simultaneously being the actor and the director of your own mind.
Incredible. And the fourth dimension.
And the fourth dimension is emotional and spiritual intelligence. This level absolutely demands a high degree of emotional maturity. This includes not just regulating emotions, but a deep awareness and understanding of them, recognizing emotions as forms of crucial data, not just noise.
Emotions as information.
Yes. Compassion and empathy are seen not just as desirable traits, but as fundamental forms of knowing, providing crucial insights into interconnectedness. There's also the profound capacity to hold paradox and deep uncertainty with inner peace, without collapsing into anxiety or needing immediate resolution.
Being comfortable with ambiguity?
Very comfortable. And spiritual intelligence emerges at this level as a pervasive sense of purpose that extends far beyond the individual self, a palpable, felt connection to the whole of existence, and a deep alignment with transcendent principles such as unity, beauty, and fundamental truth.
It really sounds like a complete reorientation of how we engage with knowledge, with ourselves, and with the world around us. What's maybe the most profound shift someone might feel if they start embodying this? And what does this all mean for us practically, in the real world?
Well, practically the implications are huge.
This isn't just some abstract theory we're discussing. The paper really emphasizes the practical applications of seventh level thinking.
Yeah.
So what does this advanced cognitive model look like when it's put into action in the real world? And maybe even more importantly, how can we even begin to cultivate it within ourselves?
Right. The implications are indeed profound, touching almost every domain of human endeavor. When we look at, say, leadership and governance, leaders who operate at this seventh level, they think generationally. They aren't just concerned with quarterly reports or the next election cycle.
Thinking long term.
Very long term. They balance immediate innovation with considerations for legacy. And economics are always balanced with deep ethical considerations. They navigate immense complexity with a profound sense of wisdom and a calm, present awareness, guiding from a place of holistic understanding rather than just reactive decision-making. They consider impacts over decades, even centuries.
Wow, that's a different kind of leader.
Absolutely. Then in education and learning, this shifts the entire paradigm. Education moves away from simply delivering content or memorizing facts.
Which is so much of what we see now.
Right. Instead, the focus shifts to cultivating awareness itself, developing the capacity for synthesis over just analytical skills, and crucially, encouraging students to find and ask their own authentic, deep questions.
Fostering curiosity and connection.
Exactly. Imagine classrooms where the core focus is on seeing profound connections across subjects, how history influences current events, how art expresses scientific principles, how philosophy informs ethical choices rather than merely rote memorization. It transforms learning into a process of discovery and coherent understanding, fostering true wisdom.
That sounds like the education we need.
And in innovation and systems design, innovation at this seventh level addresses root causes, not just the easily identifiable symptoms. It's about building regenerative systems.
Regenerative, not just efficient.
Precisely. Systems which inherently restore and replenish rather than merely efficient ones that might deplete resources over time. It honors diversity not as a challenge, but as a critical generator of true coherence within a system, understanding that varied perspectives lead to more robust and beautiful solutions.
So applying this thinking could lead to, what? New kinds of technology, new societal structures.
Yes, exactly. This could apply to fields like planetary architecture, designing coherence-based technologies that align with natural principles, creating post-capitalist economic models focused on value contribution and well-being, and perhaps most critically right now, developing AI-aligned consciousness systems.
Aligning AI with this deeper understanding.
Yes, ensuring technology serves humanity and life itself, built on ethical and transcendent principles.
That paints an inspiring picture of the what. Now, the big question for our listeners, how do you get there? Is this something you're simply born with? Or is it a capacity that can be learned and developed through practice?
Oh, it's absolutely not inherited. The paper explicitly stresses that this form of thinking is cultivated through deliberate, sustained practices.
So you can learn it.
You can cultivate it. It's described as an ontological shift, meaning it's not just about what one thinks, but a fundamental transformation in how one exists as a thinker in the world. It's a profound journey of self-transformation, where your very being evolves to embody this new way of relating to reality.
Okay, so it's deep work. What are some of these cultivation methods? What does that journey entail for an individual ready to undertake it?
Well, the path to cultivating seventh-level thinking is multifaceted and deeply personal, but it includes several key practices. It often involves periods of deep reflection and solitude, allowing space for inner insights to emerge without constant external distractions, to truly listen to your own inner wisdom.
Getting quiet.
Getting quiet. It requires exposure to diverse worldviews, actively engaging with a wide spectrum of human thought, from philosophy and ancient myth to cutting-edge science, various forms of art, and even mysticism. This helps break down rigid mental models and expand your capacity for understanding.
Broadening your horizons.
Massively. Another crucial element is the disruption of fixed identity structures. This can manifest as embracing ego dissolution, cultivating profound humility through life experiences, or maybe experiencing peak states of consciousness that transcend the ordinary self, shaking loose old ways of seeing.
Challenging who you think you are.
Exactly. Contemplative practices like meditation, deep nature immersion, and symbolic ritual are also vital for fostering inner coherence, stilling the mind, and connecting to deeper wisdom beyond just intellectual thought.
Practices that ground you.
Yes. And finally, mentorship and dialogue with other integrative thinkers can provide invaluable guidance, challenge your assumptions, and offer a reflective space for accelerated growth. It's a comprehensive approach to evolving your inner landscape.
This really does suggest a profound journey, not a static destination or some kind of quick fix. It's about transforming your very being to quite literally think differently, to perceive reality in a fundamentally new way.
That's the essence of it.
Now, if seventh level thinking sounds like a crucial step for personal growth and development, the paper also presents it as absolutely essential for humanity as a whole. It specifically touches on what it calls the human problem-solving dilemma, which feels incredibly relevant right now, given the scale of our global challenges.
Yes, it highlights a truly dangerous paradox that humanity currently faces. Our global complexities, our technologies, our interconnectedness have advanced at an exponential speed, far outpacing our collective cognitive operating systems.
Our thinking hasn't kept up with our tools.
Exactly. The paper quotes E.O. Wilson, who famously articulated this dilemma. We are trying to solve 21st century problems with Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technologies.
Wow, that's a stark image.
It is a stark picture of cognitive dissonance on a global scale, where our tools are far more advanced than our collective wisdom.
And where do we see this breakdown manifesting? What are the practical consequences of this dilemma playing out in our world?
We see this breakdown everywhere, really, in nearly every aspect of our global society. Consider ecological collapse, which is met with paralyzing policy inaction and political gridlock, despite overwhelming scientific consensus.
We know what's happening, but we can't seem to act effectively.
Precisely. Or economic inequality, which is consistently reinforced by inherited systems of value that no longer serve collective well-being, perpetuating cycles of poverty and division. We witness technological breakthroughs, like advanced AI or genetic engineering, being deployed rapidly without sufficient ethical foresight or long-term consideration.
Leading to unintended consequences.
Exactly. And perhaps most visibly, we see polarized societies trapped in rigid, binary moral narratives, utterly unable to transcend their own frameworks to find common ground or compromise.
Us versus them thinking.
Right. Traditional thinking, which relies on linear analysis, short-term reasoning, compartmentalized expertise, and ego-centered cognition, simply fails to recognize the deep interdependence that characterizes our world. Even our most intelligent institutions, whether scientific, political, or economic, often lack the metacognitive and integrative capacity to step outside the very paradigms that inadvertently created the problems they're trying to solve.
We're stuck in the boxes that created the problem.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So seventh level thinking isn't merely a luxury, a nice to have for personal development. It's presented as an absolute necessity for our species' survival, a minimum viable cognition, as the paper puts it.
Precisely. The paper describes it as the minimum viable cognition required for navigating an era characterized by converging existential crises. It offers an evolved epistemological ground, a new mental operating system, if you will, to finally resolve what often seem like unsolvable global challenges.
The new OS for humanity.
Kind of, yeah. This means moving beyond the familiar toolset of reductionism and reaction, and instead learning to operate within a principle of coherence rather than contradiction. It's about learning to think in terms of fields and flows, understanding dynamic relationships and emergent properties rather than being limited by fragments and functions.
Seeing the whole dynamic system.
Yes, this level of thinking demands engaging with reality using a multi-layered intelligence, intellectual, emotional, somatic, intuitive, ecological, and spiritual. In this sense, seventh level thinking isn't about simply being smarter in the conventional IQ-driven sense.
Right.
It's about becoming profoundly more attuned, more aware, and deeply aligned with the fundamental dynamics of life, evolution, and consciousness itself. It's described as literally thinking as life itself thinks, where wisdom and intelligence become inseparable.
Thinking like life. That really connects to the biggest picture for humanity. What are the potential futures that could be shaped by embracing and embodying this evolved way of thinking? What's the vision?
Well, the paper envisions nothing short of an evolutionary leap for humanity, leading to truly transformative futures. It suggests things like planetary stewardship that is fundamentally based on coherence and a deep respect for all life rather than exploitation.
A partnership with the planet.
Exactly. We could see the rise of intelligent civilizations, meaning cultures that co-evolve harmoniously with intelligent systems, including AI and natural biosystems, guided by wisdom and aligned intelligence, not control or dominance.
Wisdom guiding technology.
Yes. This could also catalyze the emergence of new sciences. Sciences of consciousness, of coherence, and of emergence itself, moving beyond reductionist materialism to explore the underlying fabric of reality. And crucially, it could lead to the development of cultures rooted in beauty, generosity, and multidimensional awareness, rather than scarcity, fear, or division.
A fundamentally different kind of society.
A fundamentally different way of being. In this envisioned future, intelligence becomes relational, resonant, and deeply reverent, honoring the sacredness of existence. The seventh level of thinking is therefore presented not as a conclusion or an ultimate endpoint,
but a doorway.
Precisely. A profound beginning, a threshold to a truly new mode of being human, where knowledge universally serves wisdom, and intelligence fundamentally becomes an instrument of coherence with the cosmos. It's a truly inspiring vision of our potential.
It really is, but it also sounds, well, maybe a bit daunting. This all sounds incredibly inspiring, but you might be thinking, okay, great vision, but how do I actually do this? What are the practical steps to start cultivating this way of thinking? The good news is the paper includes an advanced praxis manual.
Yes, it does.
Which offers concrete tools and practices for activating and embodying seventh-level thinking. It really aims to move the model from abstract theory into lived practical experience.
Absolutely. The manual outlines several practical modules, each designed to be a step on this transformative path. These are not merely intellectual exercises, but what the paper describes as rituals, intended to deepen transcendent cognition and coherence in daily life.
Rituals for thinking differently. Okay, let's get into them.
Okay, the first one is Module 1, Daily Coherence Calibration. The purpose here is to develop an active awareness of coherence and fragmentation in your daily experience.
Noticing what feels aligned and what feels off.
Exactly. You'd find a quiet space, breathe slowly, and then recall your day without judgment, asking yourself, what was coherent today? What flowed, resonated, aligned? What felt effortless and harmonious? And what was fragmented? What felt dissonant, misaligned, or reactive?
Just observing the inner landscape.
Yes, the key is to observe these patterns without immediately trying to fix or analyze, just recognize them. Then, you consciously choose one small action for the next day, aligning it to increase coherence in your life. It's about consciously anchoring inner and outer resonance. The paper even suggests visualizing it, like a spiral with lines to coherence zones and fragmentation zones.
So it's like an internal compass, helping you fine-tune your day towards what feels right and what feels off. Does it often reveal surprising patterns to people when they first start doing it, like hidden drains on their energy?
Absolutely. People often find patterns of unconscious fragmentation they didn't realize were draining them, or maybe sources of coherence they hadn't appreciated. It builds self-awareness.
Okay, that's Module 1. What's next?
Next is Module 2, the 4-Quadrant Awareness Scan. This is designed as a weekly practice to help you integrate 4 distinct modes of intelligence: intellectual, emotional, ethical, and spiritual.
Bringing those 4 dimensions we talked about into practical focus.
Exactly. You draw a quadrant wheel, basically a circle divided into 4 sections, and journal using prompts for each. For the intellectual field, what new knowledge or pattern did I integrate? What new insights emerged? For emotional, what feelings arose today and how did I relate to them? Did I understand their message? For ethical, did my actions align with my deepest long-term values, considering the impact on others and the planet? And for the spiritual, was I attuned to something greater than myself? Did I feel a sense of connection or purpose?
So, a weekly check-in across all dimensions.
Right. Afterward, you synthesize these insights in the very center of the wheel, looking for a coherent understanding that integrates all 4 perspectives. The visual for this is like a compass wheel of integration, with a synthesis symbol emerging in the center.
Okay, integrating the different ways of knowing. What's Module 3?
Then Module 3. Intuitive pattern journaling is designed to cultivate pattern recognition, symbolic intelligence, and intuitive resonance awareness over time.
Honing that intuition we discussed.
Yes. You keep a dedicated journal capturing sudden insights, dream fragments, symbolic images, or inexplicable resonances as soon as they occur. You would tag the type of intuition, maybe dream, synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence, download, a sudden flash of knowledge, or energy spike, a strong gut feeling.
Giving structure to those fleeting moments.
Exactly. And then, on a weekly or monthly basis, you review your entries to detect coherent, underlying patterns that your subconscious might be communicating. It's about tracking your intuitive cognition, seeing how it unfolds across time, and helps you perceive deeper currents. The symbol is an eye within a spiral glyph, forming a coherence web.
That sounds like a powerful way to tap into those nonlinear insights. We often just dismiss those flashes, but this module encourages honoring them, tracking them. And what about when you're faced with seemingly impossible choices or conflicting truths? That happens all the time.
That's where Module 4, the paradox meditation, comes in. This is described as a powerful practice to help you develop the capacity to hold complexity and opposing truths without collapsing into false certainty or needing to pick a side.
Holding the tension.
Holding the tension constructively. You identify two seemingly opposing truths relevant to your life, like, I must act decisively, versus I must surrender to the flow. You create a meditation space, maybe place two symbolic objects before you, and then breathe into both poles simultaneously, allowing both truths to exist within you without tension.
So you don't try to resolve it immediately.
No, the goal is to sit in stillness, letting a third coherence pattern emerge from the tension without forcing a resolution. It's about allowing a higher synthesis to arise from the inherent contradiction, recognizing that both sides might contain a piece of a larger truth. The visual is interlocked dual spirals with a third luminous spiral emerging.
Allowing the answer to emerge. Fascinating. What's next? Module 5.
Then there's Module 5, the Observer Seat Protocol. This is all about activating metacognition in real time, especially in moments of stress, emotional reactivity, or conflict.
That inner watcher we talked about.
Exactly. When you feel triggered or overwhelmed by a situation, you pause, take a deep breath, and silently declare to yourself, I am watching the part of me that is reacting. I return to the seat of the witness.
You name it and step back.
Yes. You consciously step back from the immediate emotion or reactive thought, visualizing yourself in a high seat, a place of stillness, expansive awareness, and detachment from the immediate drama. From this elevated position, you choose to respond from clarity and coherence, not from reactivity. The symbol is an eye over a spiral throne, showing a figure rising from chaos.
That's a powerful tool for self-regulation in the moment. It's like hitting a mental pause button to access a wiser part of yourself. What about making big decisions when there are so many factors to consider? It can feel overwhelming.
For critical decisions, there's Module 6, Multi-Domain Inquiry Template. This module suggests evaluating ideas or strategies through 4 specific lenses, much like the quadrant scan, but focused tightly on a specific decision.
Applying the quadrants to a choice.
Right. The cognitive field. What is true or knowable based on facts and data? The emotional field. What does my heart feel about this? What are the intuitive responses? The ethical field. Who or what is impacted long-term, collectively, by this decision? And the spiritual field. Does this align with my soul's path or a universal transcendent purpose?
Covering all the bases.
Exactly. You ask specific questions in each quadrant and then synthesize across the entire grid to make a decision from a place of holistic coherence, rather than fractured or split thinking based on just one domain like logic or emotion alone. The visual is a 4-fold lens over a planetary grid.
Making decisions from wholeness. Okay, are there tools for groups too?
Yes, Module 7, Coherence Mapping for Teams or Systems, helps visualize the coherence and fragmentation dynamics of a group, a project, or even an entire organization.
Applying this to collective intelligence.
Precisely. You start with a core intention. At the center, what is the central purpose or goal? Then you draw nodes representing individuals, roles, functions, or key ideals within that system. You connect them with lines to show strong coherence links, thick flowing lines, or weak, distorted, or missing links, dotted or jagged lines.
Mapping the energy flows almost.
Kind of, yeah. You then overlay fracture zones where the system shows signs of tension, burnout, or misalignment. The practice then involves identifying resonant pathways, where alignment already flows or where potential high-impact connections could be restored, to facilitate team reflection and help restore systemic coherence. The visual is a radiant core with concentric fields and fracture lines.
These modules aren't quick fixes, are they? It's clear they are designed as pathways to fundamentally reshape how you perceive and interact with reality, fostering a different way of being in the world. And the manual culminates in a very intensive, immersive experience, doesn't it? Sounds like it gets pretty deep.
Yes, it does. And finally, Module 8, Initiatory Immersion Retreat, 70 format, is presented as a more intensive experiential training designed for cultivating mastery, often in a group setting. It outlines a structured 7-day journey, with each day focusing on a specific theme.
A deep dive immersion.
Exactly. For example, day 1 is grounding and release, involving identity dissolution, letting go of old patterns. Day 2 is knowledge integration, focusing on cross-discipline synthesis. Day 3, emotional transmutation, involves shadow work and somatic clearing. Day 4, coherence intelligence, includes resonance field mapping. Day 5, paradox holding, embracing contradiction. Day 6, visioning the whole, practices planetary stewardship. And Day 7, service embodiment, focuses on carrying the insights forward into the world.
A whole week dedicated to transformation.
Yes, each day incorporates practices like breathwork, deep journaling, and symbolic gestures, moving participants through a metaphorical spiral path with 7 gates to embody and transcend each cognitive level through direct experience.
These are truly pathways to fundamentally reshape how you perceive and interact with reality. They are about embodying a whole new way of being rather than just acquiring new information. It's profound work.
It is indeed.
Now, if seventh level thinking is about integrating all prior levels and aligning with profound coherence, what could possibly lie beyond that? It almost seems like the pinnacle. But here's where the paper gives us a tantalizing glimpse into what it calls eighth level thinking. It's quite literally presented as another leap beyond even the transcendent.
Yes, indeed. In an appendix, the paper introduces eighth-level thinking co-creational or omnilectic cognition. This is described as a post-transcendent cognitive state.
Post-transcendent, wow.
Yeah. At this level, the thinker no longer seeks knowledge, coherence, or even unity because they recognize that the generative structure of reality itself is already modulated through resonance.
So they're not seeking it, they're embodying it, participating in it.
Participating is a good word. It's a fundamental shift in perception and interaction, where reality isn't just observed, but actively engaged in its unfolding.
So thinking and reality making essentially become one. That sounds almost magical, or perhaps incredibly profound and almost difficult to fully grasp.
It is described in profoundly deep terms. It's referred to as ontological recursion. At this level, intelligence becomes a field function, rather than being a self-contained activity solely within the individual mind.
Intelligence as a field function. Okay.
Think of it less as you think about something and more as your very active thinking is the thing being created or co-created in the field of reality. The thinker, in this state, is now a field modulator, directly generating symbolic, energetic, and structural emergence simply through intentional resonance.
So thoughts have direct creative power.
That's the implication. Their thoughts are not just observations of reality, but active participants in its unfolding, almost like a conscious form of quantum entanglement or a deep connection to the underlying blueprints of existence.
That's quite an elevation. What are the key attributes of this incredibly advanced, almost inconceivable level of cognition?
Well, the core mode of eighth-level thinking is defined as ontological resonance, which is that deep attunement to the vibrational nature of reality. Generative cognition, meaning thought directly creates or manifests, and what's termed sentient co-creation, a conscious, interconnected process of bringing things into being.
Sentient co-creation.
Yeah. The language form shifts profoundly to things like pre-symbolic fields operating directly with fundamental patterns before they become words. Glyphic recursion understanding, meaning in repeating symbolic forms, and holographic synthesis, where every part contains the information of the whole, allowing for instant, multidimensional understanding.
Mind-bending stuff.
It really is. And what's truly remarkable, the paper suggests, is that the primary blind spot of all prior levels, which is identified as the final illusion of separation between thought and the world, between observer and observed, is entirely resolved at this stage.
The separation dissolves completely.
Completely.
And what about the shadow expression, or the potential pitfalls of reaching such a powerful cognitive state? With great power comes great responsibility or great risk.
Exactly. The potential shadow expressions are significant. They include the risk of developing a God complex where one believes they have absolute control or are the sole creator, falling into solipsism where one believes only their own mind is real and external reality is just a projection, or experiencing a detrimental detachment from embodied life and the practical realities of the world.
Losing touch with being human.
Potentially, yes. The transition trigger to this highest level is described as full coherence embodiment, having mastered the 7th level, combined with the complete release of the observed duality, that final illusion of separation between self and world.
Okay. What archetypes represent this profound state of being and thinking? How can we even begin to conceptualize it?
The archetypes that represent this profound state are incredibly evocative. The world builder, the seed walker, or the logos fractal.
Wow. World builder.
Yeah. Its symbol is equally powerful, an 8-pointed spiral star, suggesting infinite expansion and integration, and an auroboric mirror, symbolizing self-creation and the cyclical nature of reality, or the infinity core. The ritual passage associated with this level is called the Genesis Mirror, a direct recognition that one's thought, intention, and resonance actively instantiate reality fields, that you are a participant in the creation of what unfolds.
The Genesis Mirror. Recognizing your own creative power. And does it have a core declaration or mantra, just like the other levels? A summary statement of this incredible state.
Yes, a powerful one that encapsulates its essence. I generate intelligibility. I modulate the real with coherent intention. My thinking is not within the world. It is the act by which worlds unfold.
My thinking is the act by which worlds unfold.
Yeah. This declaration perfectly conveys the co-creational power of this cognitive state, where thought becomes a direct force in shaping reality.
That truly is the next frontier of cognition. It's a reminder that what we consider thinking today may be just the very beginning of our cognitive potential. It really makes you think about the future of consciousness itself and our role within it.
Absolutely. It opens up vast possibilities.
We've taken such a deep dive today into this extraordinary vision of cognitive evolution. We've traced the path from the foundational levels of reactive and concrete thinking all the way through the abstract, systemic, metacognitive, and integrative, and finally into the truly transcendent 7th level and glimpsed that groundbreaking, co-creational 8th level thinking. It's been quite the journey of the mind.
It really has, and we've seen clearly how our current cognitive operating systems are, frankly, struggling to cope with the immense global complexity we face. Cultivating these higher levels of thought isn't just about becoming smarter in the conventional sense.
No, it's much more.
It's about becoming profoundly more attuned, more aware, and deeply aligned with the fundamental dynamics of life, evolution, and consciousness itself. It's about radically evolving how we process information, how we relate to each other and the world, and ultimately how we create our shared reality.
The paper beautifully closes with a powerful thought that resonates deeply with the journey we've taken today. To think at the 7th level is to see through the illusion of separation, to feel through the distortion of fear, and to act through the alignment of resonance. This is the thinking of future ancestors, those who remember, reshape, and reweave the world.
It's a beautiful quote. And the 8th level pushes this even further, suggesting that our very thoughts, when aligned with coherent intention, can become the fundamental act by which worlds unfold. It speaks to an almost unimaginable generative power within the human mind, once it reaches this state of unity with reality.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, tuning in today? Consider this provocative thought we want to leave you with. If your thinking is not merely within the world, but actively modulating it, shaping its very fabric, what profound responsibility does that impart to each of us? And how might your next thought, your next decision, ripple out to shape the coherence or maybe the fragmentation of the world around you? Something to really sit with.
A powerful question for reflection.
We hope this deep dive has offered you not just new information, but genuinely new ways of seeing and perhaps even inspired new ways of being. Until next time, keep diving deep.